Hey yo, it's your boy Monster Man Rocco.
It's your boy Swagger Rock.
This is Snack the Ripper.
You rap for those who don't know.
This is Master Ace. You are now rocking with the best. Breaking Records Radio.
Breaking Records, man.
Breaking Records Radio.
Breaking Records Radio.
Breaking Records.
Breaking Records.
Breaking Records Radio. Let's go.
Breaking Records Radio.
Press the 5-9. Breaking Records Radio.
Breaking Records, man. Radio is like the place to be. I don't fuck strange music, dude.
Like you know, in those days when you're just kicking it with Primo at his place, or like even him teaching you the ropes of production and stuff, did he ever play you any beats, like, you know, that he was working on that went on to become classics, like, you know, early versions of like Dwick or like anything like that, like before the songs were even done?
He never played me any beats, but he played me songs that he did that were not mixed yet. And one of the songs I specifically remember him playing was the Mobb Deep joint that he produced called Cop Hell.
Oh shit.
And I remember being in his MPV, his Mazda MPV, driving around Queens, and he's like, "Yo, I just did this beat for this new group," and he played it for me, and I remember him just turning it all the way up, and we were just it had this ill like sound on it, and I was like, "Who
Really?
these dudes?" I
Like,
had never heard of them. I was like, "Who these dudes?" He's like, they call Mobb Deep. I was like, "Okay, I never heard of them, but this joint sound rough right here. This rugged." And then that's who put me on to Mobb Deep. I never heard of Mobb Deep until that time in the van with Premier when he played me the remix to Cop Hell that he did.
wow, crazy.
Yep.
That Primo remix is crazy too. Like a lot of people don't really know about that joint, but that's one of Primo's, in my opinion, one of his like illest abstract beats. Like that, it's like like it's like violin note or something. Like,
yeah.
Oh, that's crazy, man. That'd have been cool to, you know, just to be able to like witness that kind of thing. You know what I mean? To be able to, like, you know, and then to see what Mobb Deep went on to become. That's insane.
But you know, when you're in the moment and you're living it, it doesn't seem like nothing special about it. It's just regular life.
Yeah.
You just it's regular stuff. You don't realize the impact of that moment until years later, decades later, and you're like, man, I remember I first heard the Mobb Deep first Cop Hell remix, and now look what they became. Like, it doesn't hit you in that. You know, you're never gonna realize it in that moment. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, when Mobb Deep too, when they did that Juvenile Hell album, like, you know, they're still a little rugged, but they had more of a polished kind of like, you know, image, like with peer pressure and stuff. Like I was gonna ask, but I'm sure you couldn't have. But you probably never would have imagined at that time, listening to that they would become, you know, the next like shit out of New York, probably, eh?
Nah, because the production. Because we ultimately, after he told me about them, we listened to the Juvenile Hell album. I listened to the Juvenile Hell album, a couple of the songs, and I was like, it's cool. You know, it wasn't what it needed to be, right? And then they go from that to the Infamous. The production level jumped. It jumped so far from that album to. I was like, these are the same guys. Like, it was just a whole different feeling when they dropped the Infamous. When Infamous dropped, 94?
Is it 94, 95?
Might be 95. I think 95. Yeah, because Cinema Chrome was out like at the same time. Right in there. Yeah, but such a huge leap from Juvenile Hell to the Infamous in terms of production and in terms of how they were rhyming too. Everything about it was different and so much better.
Yeah, because when I'm younger, but like, you know, so I'm 30 now, and I remember when I was growing up, for years, I thought Infamous was actually Mobb Deep's first album. It wasn't until I was like damn years old, you know, because I wasn't there at the time to see like the progression.
Yeah.
I was, you know, just researching shit when I'm like, I don't know, like 17, 18. Like, this is the time YouTube just starting and stuff. And I'm looking at stuff. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, Mobb Deep had an album before the Infamous? I'm like, whoa, hold on.
Yeah.
and stuff. It's like, whoa.
In everybody's mind, though, Infamous is their debut, even though there was one before that. In everybody's mind, it was that was their debut because they were figuring things out on that first one.
Yeah, it's like, and just to see what they went on to become is just absolutely insane. Like, in the progression between those two albums, like,
I wish I knew what the difference was with Havoc from in terms of the first album and then jumping into the Infamous. What changed in that year and a half, 2 year time period? Like, did he like sit down with somebody and learn some techniques? Did he just start digging more for records? Like, I'm just curious to know, like, how did he get from there to there in just a couple of years in one album? It's amazing.
And just like they, they kind of went from like doing it's hard to explain, but they go from Juvenile Hell to literally creating like their own sound. You know what I mean? Like their complete own sound.
Yeah.
And I know Q-Tip helped a little bit, like, especially I think Havoc said Q-Tip helped him a lot with like learning how to like make his drums hit the right way and stuff. But like
you could hear it too. You could hear it because the snares were so loud. The snare was so loud on the Infamous album, and that's what Tribe was known for, that super loud snare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's, I'm the same thing. Like, I'd love to be able to pick Havoc's brain and just be like, yo, what happened? Like, what kind of shit did you see in life between those two albums? Because, yeah, like, Juvenile Hell's dope. Like, don't get me wrong. But, yeah, to be able to, go from that to literally creating a complete new sound in hip-hop, which would go on to, everybody wanted to be Mobb Deep after that for a good chunk of time. You know what I mean? It's like,
especially the young cats coming up at that time, definitely.